If you know how to do these three triangles, this triangle, and this triangle, then you can do any shape like diamond, hourglass, K pattern, upright Pascal triangle, and many multiple other pyramid patterns very easily.
Hi, this is Abhik B, and this video is a comprehensive guide where I show you simple ways to print any pyramid pattern program, whether it is a star pattern program or a digit pattern program. At the end of this video, I will provide you with two simple challenges which you need to do to understand whatever concepts I teach you throughout this video, whether you have understood those or not. So let's begin.
So I already assume that you know little basics of C programming. You don't need to know advanced. You can be an absolute beginner. But I assume that you know a little basics of C programming and nested loops, at least the for loop structure. Even though I will show you how the nested loops works throughout this pattern programming guide through in details, but still I expect you to know a little bit of C programming and nested loops. Then I also assume you that you are a beginner in coding, because if you are already intermediate or advanced, then this guide is not for you. This is just for absolute beginners. And the third thing that I assume from you is you don't want to copy pasta the code that I show you. Rather, you want to understand and learn from it. Learn the programming basics. Only then this video is helpful to you. Otherwise, this is a very long video for you. So throughout this video, I will be using this particular online compiler. Link will be in the description. So let's begin. Let me tell you, before starting with patterns, let me explain you some basic stuff like rows and columns. What are rows and columns? So first of all, rows are from a horizontal direction. Rows happen in horizontal direction, that is from left to right, from right to left, or from one direction to another direction in this format. This is known as horizontal. Remember the keyword horizontal. And columns are like this. So columns are from top to bottom or from bottom to top. So these are in this direction and we call it vertical. So remember the keyword vertical stands for columns and horizontal stand for rows. Let's first write the program to show you how to print a row and a column. So I will remove this line. Here, first thing I will do is I will print a row. How to print a row? So to print a row, I will run a for loop and I will use the variable name as row for simplicity. But in practical use case, that is in real world use case, you will see most of the pattern programs have I. I stands for the row and J stands for the column. Okay. But here for the sake of simplicity, I will be using row and column. So anyway, row equal to 1, row less than or equal to n, and row plus plus. Now wait a second. What is n? So let me define a new variable here. Int n, which will be a number. Here I am giving it a hard-coded number 5, but normally it will be a user input. Okay. Now why we are using for loop? So that we can print multiple rows. If you see here, we have 1 row, 2 row, 3 row, 4 row, like that. So to print multiple rows, we can directly use the statement printf and then we can print multiple 5 times, but we will be using loop so to simplify our task. Okay, so the row will start from 1, which is again for the sake of simplicity. Some places you will see row starts from 0 and it ends before n, but here it will start from 1 and it will end when it reaches n. That means row will start from 1, it will go 2, 3, 4, 5. So if n is 5, then it will run for 5 times. And first one will be row 1, row 2, row 3, row 4, row 5. 5 times, right? And each time it will do a certain stuff that will be written inside this code block, right? And then it will increment after every iteration, it will increment. So let me print you the first row. So let me print star, which is the basic program. So let's print star and let me run this. You can use F9 to run as well. And it prints 5 stars. 5 row, 5 star. However, as I said earlier, rows are in horizontal format, right? This is one row, this is two row. However, here all stars are printed in the same line. That means in one row only. Why so? Okay. Now understand this thing. If I just name a variable as row, that will not tell the for loop to print in row structure. It will print in one row only. So to tell that for loop that we need to print every iteration in a single row. See, star is getting printed only one time per iteration. So for row 1 it will print star once, for row 2 it will print star once, and like that you will get 5 stars for 5 iteration, right? So we need to tell that each iteration should be printed in a new line. Why in a new line? See, this is one line, this is the another line. So for every new line we will be printing another row. We will be printing each row in a new line. So how to do that? So to do that I will write another printf, and here I will have n, press semicolon, and I will run, and now you can see each star is printed in its separate row. There are 5 rows and each row has 5 stars. So the here one thing you need to understand, this is a very important thing. For time being, just forget this line. So to print a row, this is the entire code to print any row. This is a template code. Okay, I have already linked that down in the description. The template code to print a row, which is very important for you to understand, is we will start the row at our starting variable, then we will end the row at the variable that you will define. Most of the time it will be user input. So we will for the sake of this example, we start the row at 1 and we end the row at nth position, and we increment the row by 1 every time, right? And inside that row, the first thing that we will do is we will print a new line, so that every iteration gets a new line. That means every row is printed in a separate line. Understandable? Okay. Now let's bring back our code. However, if you see this code here, every row has how many columns? One column. See, okay, let me explain you here. See how let's say we are printing dots instead of star. So we are printing only 5 times. So each of them is a row, each of them is a separate row. Because I have already said that rows happen in a horizontal format. However, how many columns are there? Only one column. See, columns happen in a vertical format. How many columns are there? Only one column. So to print multiple columns, we need to run another loop. And this loop will be inside the for loop. Why so? So that it prints this dot multiple times. Let me explain. So here, instead of printing this star over here, what we will do is we will create another loop. And this is nested loop. I will give it a name of call, but normally it has the name of j. So first row will be represented by I and column will be represented by j. But here for the sake of simplicity I am using column. So call will be 1, call will be less than or equal to n, and call plus plus. And here we will paste this star. What will this do? Let me show you. This prints 5 columns. So see here 5 columns and 5 rows are here. That means, see, we are printing the star for only one time. We are printing it only one, but it prints for 5 times in a column, because every row, let me make a dry run and make you understand this. When row is 1, column will run from 1 till 5. Why so? Because see here I have written column is 1 and column is less than n, then column plus plus. So this loop is inside this outer loop. This is the inner loop and this is the outer loop. So this inner loop will run for, it will complete its execution, that is it will run till n times. It will complete its execution and only then one iteration will be passed. Think of this as hours. So there are 24 hours in a day, and only after 24 hours is passed, only then our entire day is passed. right? Similarly, after these many iterations, so here are 5 iterations. So after 5 iteration, this entire row's first iteration is done. Then we print it for 5 times. Then the second iteration is done. Similarly, like that. So when row is 2, then the column will print for again 1 to 5. That means 5 stars here, 5 stars here. So when we get 5 rows, so for 5 rows we will print 5 stars each row. That is why we get a output like this, and this is a square. So now our second pattern is to print a star. How to print the star? What kind of star? Let me show you. The star pattern will be printed like this. Understand this thing very carefully. How many rows are here? Here are 5 rows. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. How many columns are here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that means we are going to print 5 row and 5 column. However, this is not a square, this is a triangle. And how is this triangle getting formed? If you notice carefully, you will see first row has only 1 column. Second row has 2 columns. Third row has 3 columns. What does this mean? This means that row number directly proportional to columns, number of columns. Row number directly proportional to number of columns. What does this mean? See, if row is 2, if the row number is 2, that means we are in the second row, row 2, then how many columns are there? There are 2 columns. According to this formula, if I am on row 4, then how many columns are there? There are 4 columns. You see it yourself, 1, 2, 3, 4. There are 4 columns. So how to do this? So to do this, the simple thing is, instead of running this column loop, for n times, that means it will print n columns, we will do it for row times. So whatever the row number will be, we will be printing columns for that many rows. So that means if row is 2, then we will print only 2 columns. So let's run this. And now you can see that our star pattern is getting printed. Now, what if instead of printing star, you have often seen this kind of codes, 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. This kind of code you have already seen. And ignore the space over here, that was just a mistake. You have seen this kind of pattern programs as well. How to do that? Now that we know how to print a star pattern like this, it is very simple. How? Instead of printing a star, we will print the column number. See here, column is 1, so that is it is printing column 1. Here we have 2 columns, so printing the column number 1 and column number 2. Similarly, here we have 5 columns, so they are printing 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. That many columns, that many column number. So how to do that? So instead of star, I will print %d, and then I will give a column. And let's run it. And you can see 1, 2, 3, 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That is getting printed. Now notice this one thing very carefully. If I give a space here, what will happen? This space over here, what will happen? Nothing much, but this looks a little beautiful. There is also another way to achieve this without giving any space at all. What is that? %2d. Let's run it. And you can see that we have space over here as well. Isn't it? Why are we getting space over there? So let me explain this to you very carefully. So what happens here is, what %d means is, %d means 1 digit. %2d means 2 digit. That means here if there is 1, then we will have only 1. Here if there is 1, then we will have 0, 1. But we will not show this 0. We will not show this 0, but we will take up the space of 2 digits, 0 and 1. Understandable? So here what happens is, here we get the space like this. So this is how we get extra spaces, and that is why you will see that there are some spaces beside this one. Understandable? So if I, instead of %2d, what if I have %4d? That means 4 digit. Then we will have more spaces. That means it will take up space for 4 digits, 0001, like that. Now keep this thing in mind because we will be using this in later pattern programs in this video only. Okay, so let's remove this to, instead of %d, I will have only d. Instead of 4d, we will have only d, and then I will give a space at the end. Now that we have learned how to print a star pattern as a triangle, also to print a number pattern as a triangle, let's learn an interesting thing. What if I want to print a star pattern like this? What is going on here? Understand this first. So in the previous example, what was happening is there were 5 rows, there were 5 columns, right? In this example also there are 5 rows, if you see, and there are 5 columns as well. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There are 5 columns. However, there is one thing that is different from this one. And the difference is, in row 1 we were printing only 1 column. But here in row 1 we print 5 columns. And in row 5 we only print 1 column. And in row 5 here we print 5 columns. So that is the complete reverse of this triangle. How to do that? If you think little carefully, you will see that it is very simple. So let me rewind this to star for now. It's very simple. We will keep the columns untouched because every time we are printing 5 columns, right? We will keep the columns untouched here, and we are actually not printing 5 columns every time. We are printing columns as per the row number, isn't it? So we will reverse the row number. So instead of row number, let's say this one becomes row 5, this one becomes row 4, this one becomes row 3, this one becomes row 2, and this one becomes row 1. If I do it like this, then it is the complete reverse of this. So if according to 5 rows we are printing 5 columns only, so the according to the row number, so if the row is 5, then we are printing 5 columns, but the row number is reversed. Instead of 1 2 3 4 5, we are printing 5 4 3 2 1. How to do that? Very simple. Here instead of row equal to 1, row less than equal to n, and row plus plus, what I will do is I will say the row is n. That means n's value is 5, so it will be 5. Then we decrement the row number as we proceed, right? So we will check if the row is greater than or equal to 1, and then we will decrement the row minus minus. That means the row will be decremented. So row greater than or equal to 1 means that if it is greater than or equal to 1, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, all are greater than or equals to 1. Only then we will print. If it is less than 1, then we will not print, right? So let's see it in action now. And you can see it gets reversed. So that means it is working. Now instead of star, what I will do is I will do %d. I will give it a space to look it little pretty, and column. And let's see. Now it prints 1 2 3 4 5, 1 2 3 4, 1 2 3 1 2 and 1. Now one more thing that I can show you is, instead of column, if I print row, what will happen? Then it will print 5 5 5 4 4 4. So the row number will be printed as many columns as there. So write this down very carefully, that to print a row we use row equal to 1, row greater than or equal to, row less than or equal to n, row plus plus. But for reverse of row, what we do is we keep the columns untouched, but we just reverse the row. Row gets n, row greater than or equal to 1, row minus minus. This is very important, row minus minus. If you forget this minus minus and keep it plus plus, then it will go on an infinite loop. Okay, so this is very important. Now that we know how to print this kind of triangle and how to reverse that triangle, let's learn one more thing. That is isosceles triangle. See, these are right angle triangle. Right angle triangle means the triangle which has a 90-degree angle, right? Now let's print an isosceles triangle. What are those? See, both these sides are equal length and it looks like this. This is a basic way of triangle. Like this is how a basic triangle looks like. So how to print a triangle like this? Using this star pattern. What I'm trying to say is, using this star pattern, let's print a triangle like this. A triangle like this. How to do that? Now, carefully if you notice, see, see, we were having, if row number is 1, then there will be 1 column. If row number is 2, then there will be 2 column, like that. Similarly, we have here also, row 1, 1 column, row 2, only 2 columns, row 3, only 3 columns, like that. Then how is this getting from 90° to shifted to this? That is, from 90° it gets shifted to this. What is happening over here? What is happening is, we are having some spaces. We call them leading space. So here is one character, here is 2 characters, here we have 3 characters, and here we have 4 characters, and all of them are spaces. So what I'm trying to say is, when we for each iteration, that is when we are printing a row, what we do is we first print this space, and then we print the star after space. So what happens is, till now we were just printing the star, but from now on, to have this isosceles triangle, that is a triangle like this shape, we will print space first and then we will print the star. So each iteration, that is each row, we will have 5 characters. First 4 characters will be space, and the 5th character will be our column. Then in the next row we will have 3 spaces and 2 columns. So that means 5 columns minus the row number. What is the row number? Row number is 1 for this one. And how many spaces? There are 4 spaces. So if there is row number 2, then 5 columns, 5 minus 2, that is 3. So that is why we have 3 spaces. Similarly, here we have 2 spaces. Here we have only 1 space, and here we have 0 spaces. Understandable? So let's do that. One more thing that I have to say to you before doing that. Here also we have spaces, you can see. But what are these spaces? See, here we have the simple space. That space only is these green spaces, but these blue spaces are leading spaces, which we will programmatically print. How so? So let's see. First, let me convert this to a star and give this trailing spaces. And this will be only for those which have 2 columns. Here also we have this trailing space, but it will not be visible. Obviously, spaces are not visible. It will only be visible if it is between 2 characters, right? So before we are printing the column, what we will do is we will print the spaces. And for that, we will run another inner loop. We cannot do that in same loop, because here we print for only that many columns as many row number. Similarly, here we will print for that many columns as much row number minus n. So 5 minus 1. 1 is the row number, 5 is n, and there is 4. And this is the number of spaces. So for that, each spaces equal to 1. Spaces less than or equal to n minus row. And spaces plus plus. So here we will print the space. We'll have only 1 space. And then if I run this program, you can see the triangle is getting printed, but it is downward. Why? Because we were printing the reverse row, right? So let me correct it back. Row equal to 1, row less than or equal to n, row plus plus. That is how you print a upward triangle, right? And now you can see it is completely printing a isosceles triangle. So here we have spaces. Here also we have 1 space. So this trailing space. And here also we have those trailing spaces. and here we have these spaces. So these are the spaces that make this triangle look a little isosceles. Now these spaces play a very important role. What if instead of one space, if I have two spaces, what will it print? Let me show you. If I run this program, now you can see it prints the right angle triangle but in a opposite direction. Why so? Because if I have only two spaces, then it will shift it very much. So that means we are not printing one space per character. What we are doing here is we are printing, wait a second, we are printing 1, 2, 3. How many space for the first row? 4 spaces, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. But since we have two spaces over here, so we are printing it twice. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then we have our star. Here we will have 2 stars because here we will have, instead of printing 3 spaces, here we will have 6 spaces. So there will be 6 spaces like this. And that is why the stars get shifted to this direction. And it does not matter whether there is space over here or not, but the stars will be getting shifted to this pattern. Instead of isosceles, it will get printed to this pattern. So keep in mind the use of space over here. This will be very important in the triangle patterns. So till now, what we have learned, we have learned how to print a right angle triangle like this. We have learned how to make it a isosceles triangle using the spaces, and we have learned how to include a one more space and make it look like this, right? Also we have learned how to reverse them. Let me show you how to reverse them as well. So that is very basic. Instead of row equal to 1, we will have row equal to n, row greater than or equal to 1, row minus minus, right? And if I do, you can see a triangle printed getting like this. And if I remove the extra space over here, only single space, then it will look like a downward arrow. So till now we have learned all of this. Now let's learn some more stuff about this as well. So what are those? Let me revert this back to normal row. And let me do one thing. See, here we print the star in the isosceles format, right? What if I copy this entire code of this first row and the first row and all this, I copy this, paste it down below, and I reverse it. That gives me a diamond pattern. So that means I am printing the triangle first upward arrow and then I am reversing it. That means it is downward. So when upward and downward matches, that means it becomes a diamond arrow. However, there is one thing that you need to see it yourself. Here if you see, there are 2 rows which print 5 columns each, right? And every diamond has a sharp edge like this. So how can we fix that these 2 edges can also have only 1 star? How to do that? Very simple. We will remove 1 row from any of this. We are printing only two sets of rows. First is the triangle and then there is this downward triangle. So from any of them we will remove the row which prints 5 columns. From any of them we can do that. So I will do it from the second triangle only. I will remove it. So by doing that, we will use -1. That means row will, instead of starting from 5, it will start from 4. So it will have 4 columns instead of 5 columns. Let me show it. And now you can see that only 1 column is getting shown, which has 5 columns. And this belongs to the upward triangle. And the downward triangle only have 4 stars. And that makes it look so beautiful. Original diamond like structure, right? Now we can do 2 more stuff as well with this same thing. What are those? We have only 2 sets of triangles, right? One is upward, one is downward. We will leverage them. How so? Let me take this reverse row now, that is the downward triangle. What I will do is I will cut it from here and I will paste it over here. So that means first it will print the downward arrow and then it will print the upward arrow. What will it return? Let's see. And it returns a beautiful hourglass format. Now here also we have one problem, and that is we have 4 star over here, we have 5 star over here. That means 4 column upward, 5 column downward. But here we have two 1 stars. That means 2 columns with 1 row, 2 rows with 1 column. So to quickly fix that, what I will do is instead of n minus 1, I will make it run from n. And here instead of starting from 1, I will start it from 2. What will happen? It will have 5 stars. That means the first column will be first row will be 5 columns like that, and this 1 star belongs to the upward triangle. However, from the downward triangle starts with 2 stars only, and this makes it look a little different, a little better, you might say. So that's the hourglass, filled hourglass. Now, what if I remove the spaces over here? I will comment out these spaces using Control slash. I will comment these spaces over here as well. And let's run it. This gives a beautiful K pattern. This is also logo of maybe Kotlin programming language, where the K is written like this. So this is a beautiful K pattern. One more thing, it is that if I remove this upward arrow, that is this reverse row, reverse triangle, if I cut it from there and I again paste it below the first triangle which was printing upward, what will happen? I will run this and it gives me a triangle like this. That is, it gives me a complete arrow-like structure, right? But here we have again a problem, that is it starts from 2 stars. So I will remove the row 2, instead of that I will print row 1. And now it has a structure like this. It looks completely great. And so this triangle is known as right Pascal's triangle. Now there is also another triangle which is a Pascal's triangle. And this triangle and this right Pascal's triangle are different. I have a shorts video on YouTube regarding Pascal's triangle. Also, I have written an article on Pascal's triangle, the right way to do it. You can check the description if you are interested. So till now, what we have learned? We have learned how to do K pattern, how to do diamond pattern, how to do Pascal's triangle, how to do hourglass. And they are very simple. All you just need is to print the row with spaces. In case of diamond, you need the spaces. In case of hourglass, you need the spaces. So you will print them using the space, and based on your use case, you will print them in order. For example, see if the triangle is like this. If you are going to print a diamond, what you will do is you will print a triangle like this, that is normal isosceles triangle, and then you will print the reverse. What you will do, first you will print the triangle upward, and then you will print the triangle downward, isosceles triangle. So to print the diamond, and what you will do later, you will remove the last rows of any one of them. You will remove the last row of only one of them. One of them will have its last row, and you will remove that last row from any of them, preferably the last one, but you can do that. And this, what it will do, it will print a shape of a diamond. Next up, if you want to print the hourglass format, very similar thing. What you need to do is you need to just print this one triangle. This triangle will be printed first, and this triangle will be printed next. But here in this structure, first row, that is this one or this one, remove one column, one row. Then it will look a little better, giving a proper hourglass vibe. Now for the K pattern, what you do is K pattern is like this. You completely forget the spaces part. What you do is you first print the reverse triangle, and then you print the triangle normal. Normally we print the triangle like this, and then you print the reverse triangle. So you first print the reverse one, and then you print the normal triangle. You know how to do a reverse triangle, you know how to print a normal triangle. This is the very basic triangles, you know how to do this. And from basic to isosceles, you just need to use the print the spaces. Similarly, when you print the Pascal's triangle, right Pascal's triangle, not Pascal's triangle, right Pascal's triangle, all you need to do is you need to print this one first, and then you need to print the reverse one. First the original one and then the reverse one. This makes it looks the Pascal's triangle. So let's write some algorithms for it. So the first algorithm will be for this triangle. What are the steps? So the first step is to print the rows till n. Print rows till nth element, right? And then we will print spaces. We will print columns till row number. Till row number. So that means row 2 means only 2 columns will be printed. Okay. And that's how we will have a triangle like this. Now to print a triangle like this, what we will do? We will reverse just the row. We will not touch the columns at all. We will print that first triangle. Okay, right. Let me write this. We will print a triangle like this. However, we will reverse the rows. So that means row will start from n and will end at 1. Right? So we are done with these two triangles. What about isosceles triangle? So the third is isosceles triangle. How to print this kind of triangle? So to print, first we will print a triangle like this, right? And then what we will do is, before we print the column, before the columns, we will print spaces. And how to print spaces? I have already showed you. You will print spaces till n minus row. That is, if their row number is 1, then we will print n minus row, and n is 5, row number is 1, then how many spaces? 4 spaces. If n is 5, row is 3, then how many spaces? 2 spaces, like that. So this is how isosceles triangle is getting printed. These are the basic fundamentals of any pattern using these triangles or pyramid patterns. So the first thing is to print a triangle like this, then is to print a triangle like this, and then it's to print an isosceles triangle. What next? We combine these three formulas, we combine them to form a diamond, to form a triangle hourglass, to form a K, and to form a right Pascal's triangle. This is very simple to understand. So how to form a diamond? Let's write that one as well. So how to form a diamond? First we will print one isosceles triangle. Second, we will print another isosceles triangle. And the third step is to reverse the second triangle. Then we will have a diamond triangle. Now here is one more step, that is, remove the last column from any of the triangle. Remove the last column from any of the triangle, but only one triangle's last column should be removed. Only one triangle. That's it. You get a diamond pattern. How to get a K pattern, or let's say hourglass pattern? Same thing. You first you print diamond, and then you instead of printing diamond, what you will do is you print the reverse of this triangle first, and then you print the normal isosceles triangle, right? And then the third step is to remove the first column from any one triangle. Remove the first column from any one triangle. That's how you get the hourglass pattern. To get the K pattern, how do you get the K pattern? Very simple. You remove the spaces. Instead of printing, you print the first triangle like this. Print a triangle like this. Then you print a triangle like this. And then you remove first column from any of the triangle. You remove the first column from any of the triangle. There is no case of printing space at all, right? Don't worry, I will show you all of them. So we have printed till now K pattern, hourglass, and then the right Pascal's triangle. How to do that? Very simple. To print a triangle like this, first you print the normal triangle, then you print this kind of triangle, that is you reverse it, and then finally you remove last column from any of the triangle. Then you remove the last column from any of the triangle. You know how to print a triangle like this, so that means you know how to print a triangle like this, you know how to print a triangle like this, and you know how to print a triangle like this. That means you can use these three ideas to combine them to create a diamond pattern, to create a hourglass pattern, to create a K pattern, and to print a bright Pascal triangle. It is very simple, right? Now let's understand how to print numbered patterns. So now that we have learned a lot about star patterns, let's again dive deep into the number patterns. So here I'm printing a very basic number pattern, and you can see it prints like this. I have already shown you how to code a program like that. Very simple, just print the rows and then print the columns, but instead of star, just print the column number, right? And if I print the row number like this, then it will print a pattern program like this, right? Very simple. What if I want to print a program like this? So see here, we have at the first row we have is 1, and at the second row we have 2 and 3. That means where we left off here, the number get incremented, and it gets incremented twice because 2 columns for 1. So that means it will use the same programming formula here, that is row. The column will be less than or equal to row. So that means for each column number, for each row number, so it's row 3, that means 3 columns. Row 5, that means 5 columns. But there will be a separate number which gets incremented, and it leaves here at, so the program at second row, it leaves at 3, ends at 3, and then it begins where it left off at the third row. So that means we cannot do that using row or column number, because row or column number gets incremented according to the loop. But here I think we need to have a separate variable which stores the current state of the row and the column. How to do that? To do that, we will use another variable. Let me show you. We will first have a different separate variable, and that name will be num2print, which I will initialize to 1. And instead of printing row, we will print num2print. Once this num2print is printed, it will every time it will print just 1. So instead of that, we will increment that so that the num2print gets updated, so that it prints 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all of them. So to do that, I will use num2print, then plus plus semicolon, and let's run this. And now you can see it absolutely works perfectly, isn't it? Now here one more thing that I want to show you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Till now it looks beautiful. 7, 8, 9, 10. Till now it looks beautiful. But this 11, 12, 13, this 13 is supposed to be below 9, but it is below 10. Why so? Because it takes up a lot of spaces. So instead of %d, if I do %2d, what will happen? You can see it looks like this. Now it looks a little better. You can do also one more thing. You can have extra space over here. That makes it look a little beautiful. So now that we have done that program, let's focus on this particular program. This is known as Palindrome program. If you see here, 1 stays constant in this row, 2 on each side, 3 then again on each side. So on third row we have 1 element added, fourth row we have 1 more element added, on fifth row we have 1 more element added on the either side. And this triangle looks so much symmetric. How to do this triangle? To first understand this thing that I have already told you. I have taught you how to do this particular triangle, how to do this particular triangle, and how to do this particular triangle, isn't it? And I have also said that these three form the base of this each and every triangle, isn't it? Now understand this thing. This is a right angle triangle. This is a right angle triangle, we already know. And this is another right angle triangle, can be like this, isn't it? We know both of them, how to print both of them. We already know that, right? We use double spaces over here to get this kind of triangle. And to get this kind of triangle, that's the base way of doing this. So here also, this triangle can also be divided. This can be one entire triangle with leading spaces over here, double spaces obviously. And this can be a small triangle. Now see here, we don't have the first row. We directly print from the second row. Like we used to do in the diamond, we used to remove the last row or the first row depending on the situation. Similarly here, we remove the first row from the second triangle. And we do that inside each row. So inside each row, we first print this one, and then for this triangle we have nothing to print. For the second triangle, we first print this triangle and then this triangle together. We don't do it in separate triangles. So let's do that. How to do that? Very simple. See, I am already printing a column like this. Instead of this, I will use the spaces. So I will add the leading spaces and double space as I said, right? Let's see. Now it prints like this. So this particular triangle is printed. No, this particular triangle is not printed. Why? Because one is supposed to be at the last column, but one is at the first column of each row. So this triangle is not printed yet. How to do this? Very simple. What I will do is I will reverse the column number. So I will say column equal to row, column greater than or equal to 1, and column minus minus. This thing is very important. If you don't do column minus minus, then the column will get an infinite loop, right? And now you can see that this triangle is getting printed. See, 1 is at the last column, 2 is at the second last column, 3 is at the second last column, and it appears to be a symmetric order. Now, inside this loop only, before we print the new line, what we will do is we will copy this same thing, we'll paste it here, and instead of column equal to row, we will just reverse it. What will we do? We will do column equal to 1, column less than or equal to row, column plus plus. So the traditional way of printing columns. But remember here, we don't print the first column, first row. We don't print the first row of this triangle. So what I will do, I will start the column from 2. Let's see it in action now. And you can see it prints this absolutely stunning palindrome triangle program, isn't it? It's very symmetric. So what happens here is, understand one more thing. So in the first row, it tries to print this thing. So for each and every row, first it prints the spaces, the leading spaces. Then it prints the column, that is C. First it prints these leading spaces. Then it prints this column of the first triangle. And then it sees if the column of the second triangle is available, which in this case, column is less than or equal to row, column is 2, and column is not less than or equal to row because first row is 1, 2 is not less than or equal to 1, right? So it skips this for loop for the first time, for the first iteration. For when row becomes 2, then it prints the leading spaces once again, and then it tries to print the first triangle in the reverse order, right? And then it sees if this column is 2, column less than or equal to row, it says yes, then it prints this triangle as well. And similarly, it keeps on printing like this. So our palindrome program is also done. Now let me show you another program, and that program is binary program. This triangle has 1 0 1 1 0 1 0 1 0 1. At first glance, you will not understand this thing, but there is some trick that you have to understand this thing. So the first row is row 1, row is 1, column is 1, and the summation of that is, sum of them is 1 plus 1, that is 2. 1 plus 1, that is 2. This this row's first element is 0. So row is 2 and the column is 1. So what is the summation of them? 2 plus 1, that is 3. 3 is an odd number. And this 1, what is this one? This one is row equal to 2, column equal to 2. What is their sum? 4. 4 is an even number. So similarly, this one is a odd, this one is a odd, and this one is a odd. So all odd numbers have 0, and all even numbers have 1. And how are we getting this odd and even number? We are adding the row and column, row number and column number. So for example, if row is 3 and column is 2, then what will be the sum? The sum will be 5. So the third row's fifth element, 1 2 3, third row's second element, third row's first element, second element. that is an odd number, so that is 0. Is this understandable? So how to do this? Very simple. So first we will add them and then we will print 1 or 0 depending on the situation. So let's see it in action now. So what I do here is first I will remove the spaces because this triangle doesn't need any spaces. It is a basic triangle. Then I will remove the extra stuff. Actually I will remove this one and bring this one up, and I will start from column equal to 1. I will also, instead of just column, I will print column plus row to show you. So you can see 2, 4, 3, 4, 4, 5, 6, 5, 6, 7, 8. So all the even numbers, in place of all the even numbers, we will have 1. And in place of all the odd numbers, we will have 0. How to do that? Very simple. Instead of printing, what I will do is I will first check if row plus column, how to check a even number, if a number is even number or not. We divide it by 2. We actually get the remainder after dividing by 2, and if the remainder is 0, then it is a odd even number, and if the remainder is not 0, then it is a odd number, right? So I will divide it by 0. Actually check if the remainder is 0 or not after dividing by 2. If the remainder is 0, then what I will do, that means it is an even number, so I will print 1, right? And if it is not 0, then what I will do, actually I will print else, and then I will take this printf statement, I will paste it here, and instead of 1 I will print 0, and I will remove this printf statement. Then let's run it, and you can see that our binary triangle is getting shown completely, right? So all the program related to number patterns, like pyramid patterns, are done. Now what we will do, we will start with some hollow programs. What do I mean by hollow programs? Let me draw it out. So let's say I am printing a star pattern program. See the hollowness inside this blue box? We don't print anything here. We just print spaces over here. But we print star all over the first row, the last row, the first column, and the last column. But the between the middle columns, we don't print anything at all. We just print spaces. How to do this thing? So let's see it in action now. So I will remove these if else statements, and I will keep the printf statement to print a star over here, and this will be a star pattern program for now. So we are printing the basic triangle, right? Now instead of triangle, I will instead of column less than or equal to row, I will make it column less than or equal to n. Why? Because we are printing a rectangle, and for rectangle, the number of columns is equal to the number of rows over here, just for the sake of this tutorial. So we are printing a filled square actually, and we will remove these 3 elements, these 3 columns from these 3 rows. From the middle 3 rows, we will remove the 3 columns. How to do that? So we will again have the if else statements. We will have the if else statements if column double equals to 1 or column double equals to n. So see, the first column and the last column gets printed, right? Completely. So we will see if the first column and last column, then we will print the star. Otherwise, we will print spaces. Let's see it in action. Okay, I forgot the semicolon. Let's see it in action now. And it prints, however, it does not print the first row and the first column. So we need to give it specifically row equals to 1 and row equals to n. So if the first column, first row, last column, last row, right? And it prints, however, we don't get the desired result, rather we get stars after this one as well. Why does this happen? Okay, this happens because there is a space here. I will remove the space from the star, and now let's see. Now it prints the hollow rectangle. So understand the importance of spaces over here. So just because we give space over here, what happens here is all of them get some extra space, but these only gets 2 spaces only, and since there is no star, so we get 3 characters. So let's see, if I give 3 characters or double space over here, what happens? Then it prints absolutely perfectly. See, this is the importance of the space. I'm making you understand this once again. So what happens over here is, see, here we have spaces, right? And here we have spaces, but we only give two spaces because there are two columns only. But here, after each column, we get spaces. So how many characters are getting printed in the first row? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 characters. And here, how many characters are getting printed? Star, then a space, then we print two rows, so two columns, so two spaces, and then this star and then this space over here. We also have a space over there as well. So what happens is this star gets shifted to this place after this space it gets shifted to here, and this column doesn't get a space. So if I add another space over here, so since there are so many spaces, so I after each space I get print another space. This makes it a little spacious. So if I have a single space, then it will look like this. If I print double space, then it will look like this. And if I remove this double space, instead let's make it single space, and I remove the space from the star as well, then what happens? It makes it look like this. So understand the importance of space. Spaces play a very important role in these pattern programs. So we are done with the hollow rectangle. What if I want to print the hollow triangle? How to do that? Very simple again. Instead of column less than or equal to n, I will do column less than or equal to 2. But does it work? No. Why? Because we say column less than or equal to n, but we are not even printing that many columns. Then how will it go? So let's say column less than or equal to 2. Let's see it now. It does print, but there is no space over here. See, here one space is there, here two spaces here. So it actually does that thing what we are trying to do, but it does not look that beautiful. So let's add some space over here and let's see. It does, but then again the space problem. So again I will add one more space, and then it does perfectly well, isn't it? So we now know how to print a hollow triangle like this. But what if I want to print a hollow isosceles triangle? How to do that? So we do use the print of spaces, right? So I will again print the spaces, leading spaces, and it works perfectly well, isn't it? So I just give the spaces and single space, mind you. If I give double spaces over here, what will happen? Then it will print the hollow triangle in this format. So understand how to print a hollow triangle or any hollow structure. So you do know the algorithm to print a hollow triangle is, let's say a hollow triangle like this, and this one is a hollow. How to print this one? Very simple. First step is to print a triangle like this, and second step is to make sure that if else is here. There is a if else statement going on, and if the column is the first column or the last column. Similarly, if the row is first or last. So see here, we only print if the row is first or last and the column is first or last column. And in case of triangle, the last column will be the row number will be the last column of any row in the column, any column in a particular row. The last column of that row will be the row number itself, isn't it? And that's it. And then if you can adjust the spaces. So if you give a space over here, then you need to give a double spaces over here. And if you have no space over here, then you don't need to give any space over here, or just single space. But okay, that does not make it look good, right? So give spaces over here, double spaces, and there are also space, and that makes it look perfect, isn't it? And then you know how to print this kind of triangle, isosceles triangle, and then you know how to print this kind of triangle. Just use the same formula you use for this triangle. That's it. That's how you print hollow triangles as well. So now that we know how to print a triangle like this, let's try to print a combined pattern, because we know that if we combine triangles, then we can form diamond hourglass like that. So let's see how to do a diamond, hollow diamond. How to do that? Very simple. How do I print a diamond? We copy the upper triangle and then we print that reversing the row. So I will reverse the row. If I print it, it doesn't print like a diamond because we have to print isosceles triangle, and for that we need to remove the double spaces. We need to print only one space, leading spaces, only single space leading. It looks quite like a diamond, hollow diamond, but we have this problem here. We know how to fix that. We will remove one row, row n minus 1. But does it fix that error? No, it doesn't fix that error. Why? Because we still have this, and this is not hollow because here we print these three columns, right? If we can remove these three columns, then it will be a perfect hollow diamond. How to remove that? So here in that three columns belong to the upper triangle, right? So here in the upper triangle, we will not print the last row. We will not print the last row at all. We will not print the last row's columns. We will just print the first row's columns. Let's see. It actually prints the columns because the column number is 1 and last column. So it prints the last and the first column, but it does not print the entire row. That is the point here. So if the row is 1, then it will print the entire row. If the row is n, then it will print the entire row. But if the row equal to double equals to n is removed, then it will not print the entire row. But it will still print the column 1 and column n. Column 1 and last column, right? So that's how you print a hollow diamond. Now here is a simple challenge for you. Two challenges. The first one is to print a hollow hourglass using these formulas we have shown till far, and do let me know in the feedback if you are stuck. Then I will show you the algorithm as well. But do let me know in the feedback if you have done it or not. Another challenge which I will show later on is butterfly pattern. You can see this beautiful pattern in the screen. You just need to mimic using whatever you have learned so far. Use your brain and try to print this butterfly triangle. If you can do this, then you have already understood the basics of pattern programming and the point of coding or practicing pattern programming. So understand this butterfly pattern program now. If you observe closely, then you will see there are four triangles here. One triangle is this one. Wait a second. One triangle is this one. One triangle is this one. Yeah, I know my drawing skills are not that great, so please excuse me for that. One triangle is this one, and the last triangle is this one, isn't it? There are four triangles. However, if you see that when I am printing the first row, what I am doing here is I am printing this star, then I am printing certain spaces, and then I am printing this character, this star, and these two are getting printed in one row only. But these two are different triangles. We are printing in one row. Where have we done this before? We have done this when we were printing this Palindrome program. So we were printing the spaces, leading spaces, then we were printing the first triangle, then we were printing the second triangle. Same goes over here as well. And how many leading spaces should we give here? That's a very important question. We will discuss that when we are doing this. So after we print this entire structure, we just reverse the rows and then we get this entire structure, isn't it? So the step is very simple. The first step is to print the upper triangle, print the first right angle triangle, and then print a triangle like this, all in one row. One row means each row we will print this triangle and then this triangle, then this triangle, this triangle, then this triangle. Then we will just reverse. Step 1. Simple. Let's see. So what I'm doing here is I have commented out the spaces for now. What we do, we are printing this normal triangle, which we know how to do it, right? We just run the column till row number. What if I want to print a triangle like this? How to do that? Well, I will give some spaces over here, leading spaces, but it gives isosceles. So I will give, instead of single space, I will give double space. And then it gives this kind of structure, isn't it? Now we are getting the second triangle. This is the code for the second triangle. This entire code is for the second triangle. So to print the first triangle, we don't need the spaces here, but we do need this code. I will copy it and I will paste it above the this star, right? And then let me show you. However, there are just two triangles getting printed, and where we were getting a triangle print like this, we are not getting it anymore. We are rather getting two this triangle. Why so? Because here is the game of spaces once again. First understand this thing. Remove the space from this here and give it a space above. Will that work? Let's see. That doesn't work. Then what should we do? We should increase the number of spaces here. So there are only two spaces. If I increase it to three space, let's see. It makes it look like isosceles triangle now. Now that means if I give four spaces, what will happen then? Now it gives the proper shape. Now let me make you understand this why these spaces matter so much. Instead of getting printing space, I will print a number. Let's say 8. I will print this number just to make you understand what happens actually. So if I print here, you can see one star gets printed and then 4 8 get printed and then this star gets printed. So the last star belongs to this code, right? The first star belongs to this code and then there is 8. But there are 4 8s. Why there are 4 8s? Because we run the spaces loop n minus row times. For how many times a column will get printed? Only one time because row number is 1. How many times a space will get printed? Since column n minus row is the number of times spaces will be printed, so that means 4 times. So every time 8 gets printed, it gets printed. 8 is only a single character, but it gets printed 4 times. So if I have 4 8s over here, then it will get printed for how many times? One 8 gets printed for 4 times. 4 8 will get printed for 4 times only. 4 8 multiplied by 4. How many times? 4 4s are 16. 1 2 3 4. See 1 2 3 4. This is the first 8. Then second 8. Wait a second. 1 2 3 4. Then 5 6 7 8. Then 9 10 11 12. Then 13 14 15 16. So that means it gets printed for 16 times. 8 gets printed. We print a character. Let's say I print a character like dot. I print only one time. I run a loop and the loop runs for 4 times. Then how many times this single character will get printed? 4 times. But I am running a loop, but instead of this single character over here, I have 4 of them. And 4 of them gets printed for 4 times. So 1 2 3 4, that is the first time. 5 6 7 8, that is the second time. 9 10 11 12, that is the third time. 14 15 16, 13 14 15 16, that is the fourth time, isn't it? That is what happens here. So we get so many 8s, then in the next step we get a lesser amount of 8s, then we get a lesser amount of 8, and then finally we get no 8 at all, right? So instead of 8, I will make them 4 spaces. 1 2 3 4, and this works absolutely perfectly. Now we just need to reverse the rows. I will paste the outer loop once again, and instead of the printing row equal to 1, I will print row equal to n, row greater than or equal to 1, row minus minus. This will reverse it, and let's see. And you can see our butterfly shape is getting printed perfectly, and it looks very beautiful as well, isn't it? So what do we do here? We have space. First, what we do, inside every row, we print a column, and column prints like just like how we print a triangle. So the first triangle gets printed like this normal order. So we have the space after the star to make it look a little spacious. Then we print spaces, but this time we print 4 space per iteration. 4 space per iteration of spaces. That means 8 space for first iteration, 12 space for second iteration, like that, right? Then we print our star where the space is not after but before. That makes it look a little beautiful. and then we reverse the rules. That way it becomes a beautiful butterfly pattern.
So that's it for now. If you have liked my way of explaining, then do subscribe to receive more of these videos. Thank you.